Lady Charmaine live. Lady Charmaine live. All right now.
You are now inside the Lady Charmaine live show, and I'm so excited today, and I got to tell you why. Because my guest today is a 7-time Emmy Award-winning television producer and host. He's an executive producer and host of the celebrity movie and streaming show Take a Look, and a cast member of ABC 10 Morning News. I want you to help me welcome to the Lady Charmaine live show, my friend, Mr. Mark S.
I don't have anybody to applaud for me, so I'm applauding for myself. Hey! That guy!
So now I'm really excited because now I'm always being interviewed by Mark. So today is my first day actually interviewing Mr. Mark S. Allen. So welcome to the show, Mark.
Hey, it is such an honor to be here.
Thank you so much.
This is the first time I've been in a radio station being interviewed in a long time.
Hey,
it feels
so
good.
Yes, I'm so glad it's me, though. I'm so glad it's me. So, so if you want to watch the show, we're actually live right now on Facebook at Lady Charmaine Live. So if you want to catch Mark in the studio.
Wait, what?
Yes, we are.
Oh, man.
I had to put you live on Facebook.
I would have taken off these greasy clothes and put on something fresh.
Oh, for real? Okay. But I'm not sure, Mark, if you remember when I used to work at KZZO. This was back in 2003. Mark used to call in. I was the entertainment reporter. And I said, I wonder, do Mark even remember when I was an entertainment reporter for them and used to call in on the Sean and Jeff morning show?
Oh, my goodness. Putting two and two together. Why are you just now bringing that up?
I know.
We have so many chapters in our life, and you close that door and you don't think about it, and you just really burst that open.
Right. Mark used to call in for the 2 years I was there.
All the time.
All the time.
So this is not the first time we've had dialogue on the radio.
No, sir.
That's why it feels good. It's homecoming.
Absolutely. So Mark told me to ask him this question. Where were you 24 hours ago?
24 hours ago, I was getting thrown around by Jack Black and Jason Momoa on the set of the Minecraft movie on the backlot of Warner Brother Pictures in Southern California.
Oh, so you're a man on the move. So it's a new movie coming out.
Yeah, it's a half hour. We're doing a half-hour show based on the movie called Minecraft that's based on the game. And I'll tell you right now, this movie is so much fun. It might be one of the best video game adaptation movies you've seen in a long, long time.
Mark, I don't know, where do you get the energy from besides Red Bull, for real?
It's a lot of coffee. Ask your receptionist what she said. She said, "Can I get you some water?" I said, "No, but is there a pot of coffee that's been lingering? I'll take it. I'll even just gnaw the grounds."
You see, I know Mark does Red Bulls because when we do the show like at 5 in the morning, when he come to my store, and I'm like, how do you keep that energy up? Because I know you must have some natural endorphins that just keep you going.
I don't know. I have a good time and I lean into it. I feel better now than I've felt my entire life, and to be like, I don't know if you know this or not, but I'm 87 years old. And so to be doing it this long.
I kind of figured you was about that age.
That's so mean. That's so mean. Right now, and there are people in the audience right now going, they either don't know, don't care, or they're going, yeah, I figured that much.
Yeah, but I wanted to talk about Mark today because Mark, he is so sweet and he interviews so many people, and Mark is just a rare gem, and I just love him. And I told Mark I wanted to have him on the show, and it was a trip because I had sent Mark a text message, right? And who would have known that when I sent Mark the text message, because he was just on my heart, and I sent him a message, and who would have known our dear friend Al was going to be gone in a few days.
Oh yeah.
So I'm just so glad that you're here. But I wanted to talk about Mark today because many people, I'm sure, like myself, may not be aware of your producer credits. So Mark is more than just an entertainment guy that you might see or in the city just highlighting local businesses. I mean, he has produced such films as, I think it's Appartation. Did I pronounce that right?
No, it's play on both words. Like, definitely put the emphasis on app, but it's apparition. And it's supposed to be like apparition, like a ghost, but also app, because the central theme of the movie is this kid's created an app that acts like a Ouija board that guides people to where they have some unfinished business. And that's where the apparition, all the ghosts start coming out. Okay. Stars Kevin Pollak and Mina Savari, 2 Academy Award-winning film pioneers.
Okay, and then you also did Notorious Nick, based on the true story of the MMA champion, Nick Newell. Tell us about that.
That's probably one of the most meaningful films that I've done. I produced that film. We bought the rights to Nick Newell. It's a true story. This guy grew up with one arm and became a great high school wrestler and then became an MMA fighter and then won the world championship. True story, absolute true story. And we made that movie about 7 years ago. It came out 5 years ago, last December in theaters. Beautiful story.
And then you got another one called Ballbuster starring Jerry O'Connell.
That's a different story. No.
Uh-oh.
That all started with a script written by Fred Wolf for Adam Sandler called The General, and it's based on the Washington Generals. We've all grown up with the Harlem Globetrotters, right? And then there's that team that loses to the Globetrotters every night. So it's the story of this NBA player that got kicked down because of some bad things he did. A judge said, if you will tour and lose every night of your life for the next year, you can come back to the NBA. And so it's a comedy called Ballbuster, starring Jerry O'Connell.
All right,
and Flex Alexander.
Oh, Flex is in there too?
Yeah.
I love Flex. I love him. So I see you kind of like horror films because I see you got like Fear Farm.
Yeah, that's like just a grungy, down-and-out, dirty horror movie. The most profitable movie of any of the ones that we've made. And it's Fear Farm with a PH. Farm is with a PH, and it's like Texas Chainsaw Massacre meets American Pie. And it spawned a sequel, too.
Okay. Now
And I co-wrote and produced as well.
Oh, so you got writing skills. I see.
I don't know about that. When in doubt, do. Like we had Apparition, and the script to Apparition paid $250,000 to this guy to write it, and it was supposed to be turned around for December for a January shoot, and turned in the first draft, and it was not the movie we would ask for. So my producing partner and I, Howard Bird, sat down and rewrote it ourselves, and we had so much fun doing that. That when in doubt for the next 5 movies, if there was an issue, we just wrote it ourselves.
I know that's right. So I see that you worked with Eric Roberts, Julia Roberts' brother, on a suspense horror, which is 616 Wolford Lane.
Yeah, so that is a suspense thriller. About that time, I had started making movies, but I wanted to do a suspense thriller and had a lot of conversations with Jordan Peele because he had just started down that road himself. And I wanted to do a movie. If Jordan Peele and Alfred Hitchcock got together to make a movie, what would that be? So we wrote a suspense thriller, and Eric Roberts, again, Academy Award nominee, and also in multiple Academy Award winning movies, took the bait. And we made that movie, and it's probably the best one. And I was the co-director of that, kind of looking over the shoulder of the director, and also produced it. And learned a thing or two, and so my next movie after that, I directed.
And so you've also been in a couple of movies. I see you've been. It's called the F List. Let's talk about that.
Amy's F-It List?
There you go.
Oh, okay. So back in the day, turn of the century, there was a movie with Michael Douglas called Falling Down. And it's the story where in the very beginning of this movie, this guy's stuck in traffic and he just cracks, steps out of his car and starts walking home. And it's kind of a comedy, but at the same time kind of heavy. He opens up a vigilante move every step of the way, ramping up even more. And we thought, what if we flip that script to a young millennial woman? And so we rewrote that movie loosely based on that, about a young woman who cracks and starts getting even with people that did her wrong. It's called Amy's F-It List. So that was my directorial debut, and it won the Cannes Film Festival Best Dark Comedy 2 years ago, and launched a lot of other things. So really proud of it.
So these films that you have, where can people see them? Are they on Netflix, Hulu? We go to stream it on YouTube. Where can they see some of your past films?
It would be hard to find any of them except Netflix. We don't go the Netflix route. We go through other streaming channels. So Amy's F-It List was picked up by Prime. In fact, it was called Amy's Something Else It List, and then Prime changed the name to Amy's F-It List.
Okay. So yeah.
So everything's on Prime or Apple TV Plus, Hulu, Vudu, Roku, Tubi. It's everywhere except Netflix.
Okay, got it. Okay. So also you have a new streaming show called Take a Look that's on YouTube. So tell us about your new streaming show.
Yeah, so it's, repurposed on YouTube, but originally it's a broadcast show. Broadcast every Friday, ABC at 9:30. It's also on AFN in 127 different countries and territories worldwide. And then after the show's been out for a week, it gets parked on YouTube. But originally, it's a broadcast TV show live every week, and it turned 1 year old last week. Where were you at the birthday celebration? Why weren't you there?
I didn't get an invite.
Okay. We can come to my birthday party this Friday.
Okay. Let us sister know. Okay, I am there. But okay, so I want you guys to, I found out something about Mark that I think I'm just kind of like years late, but in 1988, to raise awareness and funds for the Muscular Dystrophy Association, you agreed to live 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on a billboard.
For a month.
And then 3 days in, Mark fell off the billboard. He broke bones in both legs and a few other bones. But you were all casted up, and then you wanted to get back up on that billboard. Why?
Originally, I thought I was going to be fired for falling off. I had agreed to do it. I didn't want to lose my job.
Okay.
But also, it was for a great cause, and I didn't want everything to go down just because I went down. I fell off in the middle of the night. There's a high school that doesn't exist anymore called Encina High School. Some of the students that were up partying late at night saw me fall off and went by and helped one by one kind of leap me back up on the ladder, just plop me back up on the deck of this thing. And then the promotions director for the radio station came by the next day, and he could tell something was severely wrong with me. And I said, I fell off in the middle of the night, and I'm really hurt, but I don't want to lose my job. So the American River Fire Department came by, plucked me down with a cherry picker, took me to the hospital. They put me in a cast and put me back up there. Now, I lived there for another 27 days. With that said, I was on massive amounts of codeine and all kinds of... I felt no pain. It was a record heat wave. It was like 113 every day. I didn't know. I couldn't tell.
Did you get sunburned?
Oh, yeah, I got sunburned, all kinds of stuff like that. But we ended up raising like a record amount for the Muscular Dystrophy Association, and it started a precedent. Every year after that, I did another stunt. The next year, I was in a shark cage, suspended 102 feet off the ground. A couple years later, I was buried under 18 tons of sand in a tiny 4-foot by 4-foot box for a month. So we did stuff. Oh,
no, you did some things because in October 30th, 2015, you also swam from the New Bay Bridge nonstop to the Golden Gate Bridge on live television. And this was days after the first recorded shark attack in the history of the San Francisco Bay. Why?
Well, I mean, we had planned it before that, and so we had all the commercials. Can he do it? Michael Sounds can swim for this and that. Can he do it? All these promos. 24 hours a day, and then it turns out there's a shark attack right in the region, right in the exact lane I'm going to be swimming. And so I asked them if we needed to call it off, and they said, nope, let's just try to take precautions. And that's broadcast way of saying we've covered our backs in case you try to sue us because you get a leg chomped off. So they had a marine biologist and spotters on a separate boat shining a light and looking to see if there was any shark activity as I swam. Now, what happens with all those lights shining in the water, every 15 seconds I saw a shadow that I was convinced was a shark, and it made me swim a little bit faster.
So now why didn't you swim in the Olympics?
I'm not a swimmer. I'm not a very good swimmer.
Well, you must be pretty good to go from the Bay Bridge to the Golden Gate nonstop.
We were covering a guy that was swimming from Alcatraz one year, and I thought, well, why not? I'll jump in. I can swim all right. I'll jump in and see what I can do. And so I jumped in the water, and within about 30 seconds thought that I was going to drown for the first time in my life and had him pull me out. I was so humiliated by that. I got this guy, an Olympic coach, to teach me how to swim, because you think you can swim, but you really can't. They're like, it's so more scientific than you think. And he taught me a thing or two. So the next year I went back and live on broadcast TV, I swam from Alcatraz to shore and did it in a decent time. And so then, you know how broadcast is. They said, what do you got next? What are you going to do next? And so that's when they dared me to swim bridge to bridge.
Okay, well, that's
and
I
did it. It's 6.5 miles from the Bay Bridge to the Golden Gate Bridge. And they said I did it in 7.3. Do you know what that means? I can't swim straight.
Well, you swim better than me because I don't swim. I'm good. I will watch you swim.
You know what? It's because you've got talent. You've got talent, lady. That's why you don't have to do any of this dumb stuff that I did, because I got no talent.
Please, that's why you've been in this industry 4 years, okay?
I'm willing.
Now, this brother got a whole Guinness Book world record of, guessing what? Jalapeno eating. How was your rectum after this?
Rectum? That almost killed him.
I want to know.
I will tell you this. I had to be in Los Angeles an hour and a half after we wrapped this, so I was on a Southwest flight right after that. It's so funny. You just went for it. I can't believe you just asked me that question. The one that's really what's on everyone's mind. So jalapeno peppers, I got no problem with. I could eat 1 million of them. No problem on the intake. But yes, there are issues.
On the outtake.
And so 45 minutes later, I'm on a Southwest flight, and I'm dying. I think that my stomach has exploded. And then finally that light goes off that says you can now use the laboratory. Boom! The second went off. I ran to the laboratory, got in there, and unloaded, as you were. I'm shocked that it didn't blow some panels off the plane. I'm shocked that I lost compression. I'm shocked the plane didn't. So after that was all said and done, I felt infinitely better. I felt for the first time that I might actually survive this thing. And I washed my hands, pulled myself back together. And as I step out of the airplane, there's a little old lady marching down the aisle who's got to use the bathroom right after me. And so I wanted to go, you do not want to go in there. Please, for the love of God, lady, don't do this to yourself. Anyway, she went in, she used the bathroom, and I'm sitting down, and she walks out past me, and she stopped right in front of me. She looked down at me, she goes, and then you can't see me, but I'm shaking my hand with an elderly frown. And then carried on her seat after shaming me.
They did put like a hazardous sign on the door. 'Cause,
Exactly.
That is funny.
They tell you, you can't vape or smoke on planes. They should also tell you can't unload damage that you've done to yourself on planes either.
I'm sorry, yeah,
Had no
that was
choice.
kind of funny to me. Okay, so I want to talk about your book of 100 Things to Do in Sacramento Before You Die.
Yeah, I wrote that in jail. That's a true story. So if you don't have to Google far to find out that 10 years ago, I had a life-changing incident. I was discovered up in Placer County behind the wheel of a car. Thankfully, I was parked. I hadn't hurt anybody. I hadn't caused any property damage. But there was evidence that I had been driving under the influence. And these officers saw me, arrested me. They threw the book at me. And I'm ever so grateful for it because it changed my life. It changed a lot of things about me. And that's why I don't think I've ever said this publicly, but that's how that book came to be. I'd been given that job offer, but I was under a contract with CBS Television, and they said, yeah, you can't do any other things like produce movies or other TV shows or write books. And so I had to say no. The moment it was published that I was arrested, the publisher of the book from back east, Bantam, called and said, or Reedy Press said, hey, does this mean that you're currently subcontracted? You could do this? And I said, well, at least start. And so the moment that I just started taking some notes, and then the moment that I had done my time, I had that book ready to go.
How much time did you do?
28 days.
Oh, and you wrote this book in 28 days?
Well, I got it all together. Keep in mind, for what I do for a living, I'm pretty much out there in the community all the time discovering wonderful things that people should do, like places you can go on Valentine's Day to get things. So you would have been in the book. You should be in volume number 3. So I had all of these places to go to and things to do that I knew about. And so the hard part, people outside of Sacramento, my friends in LA and New York were saying, are there really 100 things to do in Sacramento? I'm like, shame on you. Truth be told, I had trouble condensing it down to 100 things to do because there's so many great things to do. So
Can you give us 5 things, like when you say before you die? Because that's serious.
Keep in mind, I didn't, and it was a much more fun title before the pandemic.
Okay.
I wrote that book, and then a pandemic happened, and then the title wasn't that fun for a while. But it's on volume 2 now. There's a volume 2 that's out there that's been released as well. It's not my idea. There's a book, 100 Things to Do in New York City Before You Die, 100 Things to Do in Miami, Denver, Dallas, Los Angeles. And so that company came after me to write the Sacramento book. So that's how it came to be.
Okay. Can you give us like 1 or 2 things to do in Sacramento?
What are you into? What kind of, you want something like fun, adventurous?
Oh, adventurous.
So have you ever rock climbed before?
No, my knees, they talk to me before I rock climb.
Well, that's okay. You can get a partner that's called a ballet who kind of takes the pressure off of you. They harness you up, and there's a place called Pipeworks in downtown Sacramento. And what's cool about this, it's like real rock climbing, like you're really traversing, but you've got a partner on the other end that's kind of taking the slack out. So if your knees aren't really helping out so much, you can make it as much of an exercise as you want or as little. And then when you're all said and done, they just let you down. You get to rappel down. And so that's kind of adventurous.
That's my kind of rock climbing. Thank you. I'm glad I asked.
That's kind of fun. High fly. Not many people know that we have this great wind turbine out in Roseville. It's one of like maybe 5 things in my book of 100 things to do that's not in the absolute metro of Sacramento. But it's a wind turbine. So if you've ever wanted to jump out of a plane without jumping out of a plane, you just strap on a suit and you go sit on top of a giant fan that blows you up in the air in a controlled way. And it's one of the coolest things you've ever done.
Okay, because I do want to do a tandem jump.
Okay.
That's on my bucket list. I want to do. So thank you for that.
All right. There's like some good people in Davis that would be loving to do that.
Okay, look at you hooking a girl up. Okay, I love it. I love it. Okay, so Mark is also a business owner. I'm sure he owns several businesses, but in 2018 he had co-founded. It's called Smart Axe Company, and I had never heard of it until I was reading about you. It's like the largest California-based chain of World Axe League certified axe bars that we have here.
So clearly I'm not a very good business owner because when you said, what should I do in Sacramento that's fun and adventurous, I should have said, you should go axe throwing. It's fun to talk about, to say, Yeah, I'm going to go have some beers. I'm going to go drink some alcohol and throw axes. It sounds dangerous. And I think that's why a lot of people flock to it. The truth of it is it's highly controlled. It's ridiculously safe. And it's a lot of fun. Like if you've ever thrown a dart, the satisfaction of sticking that dart alone in the board without even making the bullseye is kind of fun. When you do that with a 10-pound axe, it's exciting. By the way, they're 1.5 ounces. So yeah, it's an axe throwing bar. We started out with our first bar. My one of my best friends, Doug Link, who runs the Esquire IMAX Theater, co-owner, GM of that, called me one day and he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Nothing. What are you doing?" He goes, "I'm in a bar in New York City throwing an axe and it's fun and this thing is exploding and we should put one of these in Sacramento." So he and I started the Smart Axe Corporation, started our first bar. Shortly thereafter, the pandemic hit, but the governor had said non-contact sporting venues such as archery and gun ranges can remain open. Well, we fell into that. So we stayed open and did quite well. And then opened up Folsom, and then shortly after that, Modesto, Roseville, Davis. We expanded, and then, when things started getting more normal after the pandemic, we brought it back down to our 3 flagship stations, Roseville, Folsom, and Modesto.
Modesto. Okay. Well, okay. So now I want to talk to you about, you're so nice. In 2017, you were awarded the Children's Miracle Network Person of the Year for its ongoing efforts to raise funds for Children's Hospital. Why is Children's Hospital so important to you?
I've always, if you look back to a lot of the service that I've done, a lot of it is for youth-oriented, children-oriented industries, and I don't know why. I just I've always had a spirit of youth about me. I've always been so proud to be eternally immature, and so I lend myself towards youthful causes, and always have, even before I had kids. And the thing that I'm most proud of about that is that I think I received that award nationally because of fundraising efforts that I had done for United Way that went specifically to youth causes, for March of Dimes, and for that specifically UC Davis Health Center, because they do such, UC Davis Children's Hospital, that is. UC Davis Children's Hospital is one of the most remarkable in the nation. If you have a child that's going through anything and you're lucky enough to mitigate that by having them there, then you are blessed. And also they do a lot of cooperative efforts for their burn patients with Shriners. Shriners, that is, sends all of their burn patient kids to UC Davis Children's Hospital, right across the street. So there, that tells you how great it is. So I won that award in 2017, and I guess to put money where my mouth is, my son was in a horrific explosion not that long after that, and ended up being right there at this place that I had been touting all of these years.
Isn't that amazing? How's your son doing now?
He's doing great.
Good.
He's over 2 years past that. He's had all his surgeries.
Good.
He's feeling better, mentally well.
Good.
Doing great.
That's a blessing.
He's doing all the young millennial things he needs to be doing now.
Because we have children literally that are the same age.
Right.
So that's good. So I wanted to talk to you, because you touched on it earlier about your stint in jail and your drunk driving, but you do something. I want to know if you still do it. You do a ride-along.
Every year?
Every year with the arresting officer to promote sober drinking. Why did you decide to do something like that?
I didn't want to turn my back on it. I certainly am not proud of it whatsoever, but I thought there might be a lot of people that are in the situation that I was in. There are people out there that have a problem with drugs and alcohol. They're alcoholics or addicts and need to get that addressed. There are just as many, if not even more, that aren't drug addicts or alcoholics, but they got a habit of going out, especially on Fridays, and hitting happy hour and going a little bit bigger than they normally would. I don't think I'm too drunk to drive. I'm probably okay just to get home. I only live a couple miles from here. I'll just take the back roads. There are a lot of people like that, and I thought if I just came forward with my situation and just admitted that partying itself had become a lifestyle and I needed to get it out of my, stop doing it, that I could teach them something. I didn't want to hide behind it. And so I was loud about what I had done, even more so than my employers wanted me to be early on. And then the moment I had the ability to do it, I reached out to Roseville PD, and they were so gracious because they could have said, no, that's a weird cooperative thing we don't want to do. But they said, no, if you want to be transparent about it, we'll be transparent. But we want to turn all of the court documents over just to show everything. And I said, put it all out there on the table. Let's address this. And so every year I go on a ride-along with my arresting officer. He was relatively new to the force when he arrested me, changed my life, made my life better in a multitude of ways. And now he's like an old guy with kids and everything. He's
What's
good
the
friend.
arresting date? What's the date?
December 3rd, 2015.
Wow, just before the new year, changed your life, got a book out of the deal as well.
Not out of the deal, but I will tell you, that when you stop doing that bad habit that's keeping you from excelling in life, all of a sudden, all of those things that you want fall into your lap. So literally, after that happened, I had 12 irons in the fire trying to resurrect what I thought would be a devastated career. I never thought I'd work another day in my life. So I just started throwing irons and fires everywhere. And the fact that I eliminated all of those bad habits, every one of those irons in the fire took off.
See, that's why I love you, Mark. That's why I love Mark. Mark has such an amazing heart. I just love you.
Well, I'm very lucky. I have Forrest Gumped my way into a lot of good things.
But he know this. Okay, so we
Love you
want to talk about some of these celebrity interview boo-boos that you've had over the years. I want to talk about the one that you did with Janet Jackson and Tyler Perry. So I wanted to know, what did you learn from those interviews, and how have you grown from asking questions that you wasn't supposed to ask? How did you grow from that?
Well, the way that went down, we that was a satellite media tour, so it wasn't an in-person interview. And we have meetings the day before, and in that meeting, someone said, we said, tomorrow we have Tyler Perry and Janet Jackson on. And they said, it's the anniversary of the Super Bowl. And should we talk about that? And, some people are optimistic. A lot of times in the newsroom, and I'm not saying my newsroom or even current newsrooms, but let's say where things were 10, 20 years ago, they would lean towards sensationalism. And someone said, well, how can we not talk about it? And someone said, well, let's start the interview, and Mark, if you find any way to work it in, work it in. And so it's not like it was absolutely me just going rogue, which believe me, I've had my share of that, but not in this particular instance. And I mentioned it. I said, so it's been 5 years now. What are your thoughts? And Janet didn't respond. And Tyler, as he should have, as a gentleman, said that we're not here to talk about that. And instantly I knew I had done something terribly wrong that I would have regret for the rest of my life. And so afterwards, our switchboard lit up. This is back in the day when people actually picked up the phone and called. So they lit the switchboard up and they started emailing. And keep in mind, this is back where storage then wasn't like a fraction of what we have now. And so all it would take is like an extra 1,000 emails, and your email system for your entire company would get shut down. So it shut down the emails. It shut down our switchboard. Our company, all of a sudden now all the attorneys get together. What are we going to say? What are we going to do? How are we going to address this? I said, guys, I just want to say I'm sorry, and I regret it. And I want to talk on the air about how I should not have taken the opportunity. Despite what anyone said in any meeting, this is me representing me. I just want to say I'm sorry. And so they wouldn't let us say a word.
Really?
I have friends of friends of friends of Tyler Perry who got to Tyler Perry and said, Mark really wants to talk. And so Tyler Perry called me, and we had an off-the-record conversation that lasted about a half hour. And next thing I know, the next day, the powers that be said, hey, if you want to say something on there, you can say something on there. So then I made my on-air apology. Tyler Perry and I had subsequent talks about it. And if you look 6 months later, I've got an interview that I posted where he and I had a really good talk just about how it was a learning experience.
Right.
And then I brought it up. He retired Medea. What's it been now? 4 years that he retired Medea?
I'm not sure how many years.
So about 4 years ago, he was saying he retired Medea, and I said, if you're putting that to rest, I also want to talk about the fact that we're at the 15-year anniversary of how you and I had an ill-fated very first meeting. And he said, I wouldn't call it ill-fated. He said, I see it as a learning experience. Did you learn? I said, yes, sir, I did. He said, have you told other people about it? I said, yes, sir, I did. And have you helped others not to err in your ways? I said, yes, sir, I did.
That's good.
So, yeah.
Did
I make that a much longer story than it needed to be?
No, that was good. That was good. Because you interviewed someone that I interviewed before, and I love my interview with her before she passed, and it was Joan Rivers. And so, yeah, and she and I had a great rapport, and it was literally like right before she passed or whatever. So when I saw the interview that you did with Joan, oh my gosh, how was that?
This I don't know if I was absolutely in the wrong, because I was just being true to my form in those where I get when warranted, a little bit snarky. And Joan Rivers she's a pit bull of comedy. She's made a lifetime of being snarky like that. She and her daughter, Melissa, did a show called How'd You Get Rich?
I love that show.
And it's where they literally just saw people with apparent signs of wealth and shoved the microphone in their Ferrari window. How'd you get rich? And had them just say whatever, knock on the door of a palace. How'd you get rich? And I just saw an opportunity to make a snarky remark. And also, let me preface this by saying I had interviewed Joan Rivers 20 times before this. And I love, like I always say, a badge of honor would be to have been punched by Muhammad Ali. So I always say it's a badge of honor to get insulted by Joan Rivers. So I do something in every interview with Joan Rivers that touches her off a little bit to where she insults me, right? And I've gotten great results. It's worked like a charm every time. So this was no different. I was just trying to tear up so she could insult me.
Right.
And I said, Joan, was there ever a time you were out shooting and you shoved a microphone towards someone and said, how'd you get rich? And mistakenly, it was Melissa, and she said, by riding on your coattails, Mom. And Joan Rivers goes, well, this interview's over.
Yeah.
You can just go blank yourself. And all the anchors, everyone laughed it because this is 2006, 7. Anyway, it was later to where we all knew there were 12 different dump buttons that would have bleeped that word. So we're all kind of laughing, knowing that our audience at home didn't hear it. However, what do you figure? On that day, 6 of the 12 people were gone, 4 of the buttons didn't work, and 2 of the people were asleep at the wheel and didn't hit dump. So the entire world heard, you can just go F yourself. Everybody heard it.
Ooh, I was like, and I had never seen Joan like that. It was like,
she was mad.
My gosh, she was mad.
All she had to do was like insult me or like, talk about my lack of talent, or there were so many different things. It did not go well, and it gnawed on me forever. And then fast forward again, about 6 months later, I bumped into her at the Broadcast Film Critics Association, and my friend Marcus saw her and said, "There's Joan Rivers," and I said, "Hey, I don't want to cause a scene, but could you go talk to her and ask her if she'd be willing to talk to me?" And he walked over and he said, she doesn't want to talk to you. She wants you to be a guest at her table. And so she ended up switching my seat so that I was a guest at her table. And she said that she didn't mean anything about it. Like, that was such a, you know how if a billionaire gives $100 to someone, that's nothing to them, right? For her, that was such a blip in her system that she didn't even focus on it. She had never given it another thought.
That's great. Well, Mark, I want to say thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your stories with us. And thank you to the viewing audience as well. So, Mark, if people wanted to find you, connect with you on social media, you're a Take a Look show, give us all the deets.
Take a Look, Fridays, 9:30 on ABC, and then repurposes later. Just take a look on YouTube, but find it on ABC. And also 24/7, the ABC 10 Plus app. You can get Take a Look, so you can catch my interview with Tyler Perry about his new series. You can catch up with all of my interviews with the cast of the aforementioned Minecraft movie, and of course Wicked, my half-hour special dedicated all things Wicked with Cynthia Erivo. You can catch it on the ABC 10 Plus app. Thanks for having me. You are the best. I can't believe I'm on your show.
I can't believe it either, Mark. Love you, love you, love you.
Woo.
The man of the hour, Mr. Mark S. Allen.
You're
love
the
you,
best.
Mark.
Don't you just love this lady?